news rocking Capitol Hill. The White House announcing that President Obama will formally ask Congress to give him the authority to use military force against ISIS. Our military has been carrying out airstrikes in Iraq and Syria since September. So does this mean President Obama is going to ask for ground troops? Representative Ron DeSantis is a Navy veteran and member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Up until this point, President Obama has been using the authority from President George W. Bush after 9/11 to do the airstrikes. And now we hear he's going to go to Congress. Do you know what he's going to go to Congress and ask for?
You know, I'm actually hearing that he wants an authorization of force that actually limits the ability to use ground troops. And I think that would be a mistake, because even if he doesn't want to use ground troops, why would you telegraph to the enemy, oh, hey, ISIS, hey, jihadists, we're going to go to war with you, but we're not going to use everything at our disposal. And I'm also hearing there may be certain time limits, which, again, I think that tips off to the enemy that we're serious about fighting you, but only for a finite period of time. I think when you do these things, you need to determine what's your objective. If it's destroy ISIS, then we need to marshal, authorize all necessary force to do so. The president isn't required to use all force. He's got to use his judgment as commander-in-chief. But I think to do it where you're limiting this stuff, I think that's more of a political document. And then I think as the mission continues to be muddled and it doesn't succeed, then I think he'll point back to Congress and say, well, look, you know, you guys didn't authorize ground troops, so there was nothing more I can do. My hands were tied.
Why in the world, though, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why in the world would the president, if the president thinks now that he has authority to do what he's doing, and obviously he must, I mean, he's operating under the President George W. Bush authority after 9/11, why would he go to Congress and say, could you peel it back a little bit, give me less authority so I can tie my hand behind my back? I mean, why wouldn't, if he has no intention of doing anything beyond what he's doing, why not leave it as is? Why go to have a restriction put on you?
Political cover, I think. And I actually agree with the president. I think that 2001 AUMF that authorized force against al-Qaeda, when I served in Iraq in 07-08, they had al-Qaeda in Iraq, and that's now morphed into ISIS. And so the idea that these jihadists...
Yeah, but why in the world would he suddenly decide to get on the straight and narrow about that if he thinks he doesn't have authority for that? He certainly, he certainly didn't think he had to get on the straight and the narrow and give Congress 30-day notice on the swap for Taliban, the 5 Taliban for Bergdahl. So why in the world do you think he wants to sort of get straight on this and get a specific authorization to have less authority than he thinks he already has?
Because if it's not successful, I think he wants the Congress to share the blame with him. I think it's a political rationale, not necessarily a military or a constitutional rationale. Now, some of my colleagues believe that he does not have authority under the 2001, but as you point out, he said he has complete authority to take on ISIS. So I do think it's more political in nature. That's why I'm interested to see the language that they send over to us, and I want to look at it and determine, is he serious about taking on this group, or is this just something that he's looking to run out the clock on his presidency? He knows the next 2 years will not see this group defeated, and he wants to be able to point a finger at Congress and say, hey, you know, I was just doing what they told me I could do.